Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining me on another video. As you can see today, I've stayed at home to do this one. And that's because today's one is probably something that, I may get a little bit emotional about, or, it may trigger me in some way. So I didn't want to be out there in the glare of public talking about this, if that makes sense, really, today. So what I wanted to talk about today, which I've alluded to in the title of the video, as you can probably guess, is how I actually told my daughters and my family that I'd been diagnosed with leukemia. And I don't think until you actually have to do that, you can kind of perceive what a big deal it is. So just to put a little context around the story, and I've told this story to a few people over a period of time, and little details have changed. I know little details have changed, and I started to record this video a few minutes ago, and then I stopped and started again because time frames get a little bit weird, and when everything happens like that, it's very much initially a blur, and then you kind of go onto autopilot, and you kind of just do what you're told, and you do what you feel you've got to do. So that's the tricky bit, is remembering the order that everything happened in. So yeah, I'm going to jump back to beginning of August last year, and I just had a lovely couple of days off work, celebrating my birthday and my youngest daughter's birthday. And then I'd gone back to work on the Thursday, and I was driving home from work, and I received a telephone call. I recognised the number as being that of my doctor's surgery, so I found somewhere to pull over. I was about 10 miles from home. The GP on the end of the line said that they had been retesting some of my bloods that they'd had from a couple of weeks previously, and that something had been discovered in the blood. So they'd been retesting it, and unfortunately it'd come back that I had been diagnosed with having leukemia. At the time, they didn't really have any more information than that. So the only reason they told me on the phone was because they wanted me to go to Southampton Hospital first thing in the morning to have a chest x-ray. And then they booked me in an appointment to see somebody on the Monday morning. So as I say, at that time I knew very little. All I knew is that I had leukemia, and I didn't have a formal diagnosis, and I knew that that would be a little while down the line. But I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if treatment was going to start. I didn't know anything at the time. All I knew was that I had to go to the hospital the following morning, and that I had an appointment to see, it was actually my GP on the Monday morning. So I continued that drive home for another 10 miles. I'll be honest, I don't really remember anything about that drive home. It was a proper autopilot drive home. So I drove home, came home, made a couple of phone calls because I felt I needed to tell someone. So I phoned a couple of friends and didn't really know what to do. But I can clearly remember, one of the first things that came to the forefront of my mind was, my girls have got this life, and they're having a good life, and everything's great on that side of things. And now I'm just about to blow their world apart, really. And I sat down and I considered, do I not tell them? Do I just crack on and carry on? Keep it to myself and not let anyone know? As you'll know, that's not me. If there's something going on, I tell people, I let people know. I'm not just going to sit there and pretend that everything's okay when clearly it's not. And actually, they're both quite astute, and they would have realised that and sussed that out pretty quick anyway. So I really considered that I needed to tell them before I went to see the GP on Monday. And that was the really hard bit, because I didn't really have any information that I could tell them. And I wanted to do it in a way that they would be slightly protected, and that they would have each other at that time. And I couldn't think of a way to get us together, and I wanted their partners to be there, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. But for me, they had to have their partners there so that their partners could support them. I know that they would support each other, but ultimately when they go their separate ways and go home, they're going to need their partners to support them as well. So I can't exactly remember what happened on the Saturday or the Friday. I really can't remember. So much of it is such a blur. And then on the Saturday, I think I realised that I could possibly get them together for breakfast on Sunday morning. So that's what I did. I arranged for both my daughters and their partners to come here to me for breakfast on Sunday morning, which, when I look back now, I think, I don't know how I did that really. I don't know how I managed to keep up a normal pretense to be able to do that and just make it a really casual thing. So that was a bit of a weird one, but they both said yes, that would be fantastic. And they both confirmed that their partners would be coming with them, which was really amazing. And so that's how we did it. That's how I did it. They came round here for breakfast on Sunday morning. I think I put the breakfast on to start cooking. And then I said they had something to tell them. And I told them exactly what I knew at the time, which was very little. And I just knew I had leukemia. I didn't know what type of leukemia I had. I had no way of knowing at the time. I knew they were going to be devastated. They were devastated. There's no easy way of putting it. They were devastated. But the way that it was done, with their partners here to support them and to hear it firsthand, that was a big weight off my shoulders, if that makes sense, because I knew that they would support them. And that was the most important thing for me, I think. So I think, it's a question that everybody has probably asked themselves if they've been diagnosed with cancer or with some other kind of serious illness, is how do you tell your family, how do you tell your kids? And I think sometimes I don't know whether it would have been easier telling small children. I'm not too sure, I don't know. Because I've seen that done before and the kids just brush it off and it's, oh right, okay, can I go and play now? And it's kind of, it doesn't always sink in, it doesn't always register. And quite often they don't understand how serious it is, so, which is a blessing. But I knew my girls, they knew a bit about leukemia because sadly I lost my mum with leukemia. We've lost other family members through cancer, so, but I think it just shows that transparency, honesty, and allowing people to have a support network around them is probably the easiest way to do it, both for me and for them. And I'm glad I did it that way. It was lovely for us all to be together. It was upsetting, but they're strong kids, and anyway, so yeah, I wanted to make this video today really just to talk about that. And I know if you, like me, have been diagnosed with something like this, one of the questions you'll have is, how do I tell the people that I love that I have this disease? And my only advice to you is, do it as soon as you can. And do it in a kind of protective way, if that makes sense. So just make sure you've got all bases covered. Because one thing that kicks in once you've been diagnosed with cancer, there is kind of an automatic sort of thing. It's like a treadmill that you get on, I suppose. And there is support available straight away for people who've been diagnosed. But it's often their families that are left in limbo, isn't it? Not knowing anything. And I think that's one thing that makes it easier for my girls, is where I'm so transparent about it. They know if I'm not worried about it, and if I'm plodding along quite comfortably, they know that they don't have to worry about it, because if there was something wrong, I tell them. So they can get on and enjoy their lives. But it's going to be different for everyone, isn't it? I mean, I'm lucky I have a really close relationship with my daughters. So, and that could be more difficult if you don't have that kind of close relationship, I suppose. I don't know. But what I didn't want to do on that Friday night, that Thursday night or the Saturday, was pick up the phone and tell them individually. And after a couple of hours of us all being sat here, we'd eaten our breakfast, we'd chatted, we'd cried, we'd laughed. Believe it or not, we'd laughed. Then we could move on. The one thing we all agreed on was that we wouldn't tell my dad, as my dad was not in great health himself. So it was kept from him, and he passed away not knowing. But I'm so glad that I didn't burden him with that in his, last few months alive, really. So yeah, I don't know whether this video makes sense, really. And you just have to learn to deal with it, and you have to learn to live with these things, don't you? But for me, it's just about making the path smooth for other people as well as for myself. And by doing that and telling the girls the way that I told them was just really important. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's the sort of thing that you can just say to someone, yeah, I've got cancer, and then, yeah, bugger off, go and get on with your day. And it's like, no, I can't do that because you just dropped a bombshell now and you're expecting me to carry on as normal. I think we have to remember that although we're individuals, we have other people around us that love us and care for us. And it's part of our responsibility to make that, or to pass on the information that we've got to make it as painless as possible for everybody concerned, not just ourselves. But also, I think if you can do that for other people, you're taking a lot of that weight off your shoulders yourself as well. Because for me, once I told the girls, once I told my daughters about my diagnosis, I then felt that I could then deal with the cancer. But until I dealt with telling them, I couldn't deal with the bloody cancer. Does that make sense? I don't know. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I'm not on my own. We're in this together. We can all support each other. And that's the way it should be, hey? I don't know. Anyway, it's going to differ for everybody. Like I say, my daughters are, at the time were both in their mid to late 20s. So they're not children, but they're still my children. They'll always be my children. But yeah, it's very different than telling children, I suppose. And I'm not sure how I'd go about doing that. I don't know. You'll have your own answers to that. There'd be thousands, millions of people out there that have got the answers to that one. I just wanted to kind of make it relatable to people that have got grown-up children. And, just trying to make it as painless for everybody concerned in telling them, really. But anyway, yeah, I really thank you for your continued support on the videos on the channel. So yeah, love to you all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you in the next one.